Dune Part 2 was my most anticipated movie of the year. I consider Dune Part 1 to be a masterpiece. Things did not help when reviews came in calling it an instant classic, a cinematic gem, and a game changer in science fiction. The movie has an IMDb rating of over 9 and a 95% Rotten Tomato score. Now, I expect these to go down, but not by much. Chris Nolan called it the Empire Strikes Back of the Dune saga. Many have compared it to The Dark Knight, which is considered one of the greatest movies ever made. I'm telling you all, this amount of hype is not good for health. With that said, did it live up to those impossible expectations? As you can see from the title of this video, the answer is a resounding yes. Calling Dune Part 2 a masterpiece is an understatement. This may be one of the greatest movies ever made. I know it's too early to say that and things can change on repeat viewings, but that is what I felt after watching this epic on IMAX. I won't go into the plot details to keep this review spoiler free, but I hope all of you have at least watched the first movie. Like Part 1, Part 2 is also focused on Paul Atreides as he joins the Fremen at Arrakis, figuring out his role and purpose in the Dune universe. And yes, there's a lot more Zendaya in this one, and it's not just flashes in between. And the chemistry between Timothee Chalamet and Zendaya is through the roof. I was beginning to get worried if their chemistry would feel forced, cheesy, or even out of place, but no, it fits so well in the movie. The movie also does an excellent job in the development of Zendaya's character, rather than just being a partner to Paul Atreides. She has her own faiths and beliefs, and I actually related a lot more with her than I ever thought I would. But make no mistake, this movie is all about Paul Atreides, played excellently by Timothée Chalamet. I would nominate him for Best Actor at the Oscars. I felt that about him even for Dune Part 1. He brings something to these science fiction movies that actors rarely do. What they do here with Paul is nothing short of majestic. It's just masterpiece storytelling and character development. I will dive more into this in one of my spoiler analysis videos, but what they do with Paul is absolutely jaw-dropping. The other two main standouts are Javier Bardem as Stilgar and Austin Butler as Faith Rotha. What they do with Stilgar is very surprising in the way his character is used in the movie, but it's absolutely perfectly played by Javier Bardem and offers something different to the movie. No spoilers, but how they explored religion, prophecies, and the whole mythology was just so well realized and executed. Austin Butler is the one though who absolutely steals every scene he is in. I expect him to be good, but not this good. Also, his character Faith Rotha has a lot more story than I thought before. Rebecca Ferguson is incredible as well, and again, what they do with her in the movie from very early on sets the stage for the whole movie. The other supporting actors are fantastic as well. You expect nothing else from a group of actors that includes Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken, Lea Seydoux, the list goes on and on. Now, I have to talk about the cinematography of this movie because it is the secret sauce of this movie. A lot of the movie is dependent on visuals, and Greig Fraser is right up there with Hoyte van Hoytema as one of the greatest cinematographers of our time. He has established himself as a brand with excellent work in Dune Part 1 and also The Batman. The biggest thing Part 2 improved on Part 1, apart from the story, was the incredible use of IMAX. The shots are just breathtaking. Much like Oppenheimer, the faces become the canvas of these giant IMAX cameras. It just immerses you in a very different way. Everything feels intimate. There are close-up shots of the eyes and the lips, and again reminded me so much about Oppenheimer. This might be the new way to enhance the movie-going experience, and it totally works on the biggest screen possible. I was very surprised by how much story there is in part 2, especially towards the end when all hell breaks loose. It delivers action like nothing I've ever seen before, and I really mean it, never seen before. The way they use sandworms in this movie is insane, and yes, desert power, they were not kidding when they ended the first movie with that line. So much happens in the end, and in the hands of a lesser director, I can totally see this movie faltering. But in between the huge action sequences and visual effects, Denis Villeneuve always prioritizes the characters and the story so that when the action does happen, there are emotional stakes and payoffs. This is Denis Villeneuve's best movie. He has directed something so daunting and challenging that I don't think anyone could have done a better job than him. With this and Blade Runner 2049, Denis Villeneuve has proven himself as one of the greatest directors working today. My favorite director is Chris Nolan, but I do think there are things that Denis can do that Chris can't, and the vice versa is true as well. But they are the standout directors, especially when it comes to big scale movies that challenges the audience. Denis Villeneuve walks a very thin line, trying to mix blockbuster with substance, sci-fi with an indie touch that only he can bring. And despite the scheming and politics and themes of religion, not for 1 second did I find the film to be preachy. It's all very subtle and it's all about the nuances, and that's how I love the movies to be. Dune Part 1 got a lot of Oscar love, especially with the nominations, but the biggest snub was Denis Villeneuve not getting nominated for Best Director. That was absolutely ridiculous. Now, if they don't nominate Denny for Dune Part 2, it would be absolutely criminal. He has to get in. I know the year is young and we might get 5 Godfather level movies, but Denis Villeneuve deserves this nomination even more now because he was snubbed for Dune Part 1. Apart from Best Director, you expect it to get a nomination for Best Picture and it will absolutely sweep the technical awards. It could very well become the Oppenheimer of the 2025 Oscars. I predicted in my box office prediction video for Dune Part 2 that the movie would end up making close to 600 to 700 million dollars. I think that is still accurate, but now that I have seen the movie, I think it can cross that $700 million mark. I've heard people saying that it might crack a billion. I doubt that, and it is very unrealistic to think about that. The movie has a budget of $190 million. I think it needs close to $500 million to be profitable. That means I'm estimating that it will make Warner Brothers close to $200 million in profits, making it a smash hit at the box office. Dune Part 2 is one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time and might be one of my favorite movie going experiences of all time. I need a couple of viewings to see where it stands among my all time favorites, but it is right up there.